Hello, everybody. This is Danra from Soul Illumination with Danra, and this is a very special day for me because I've got some of the original spiritual Avengers from Vermont, and they are in Vermont too. And look, I am wearing a scarf on Memorial Day because Vermont is not yet officially warm. How are you guys holding up in your house down south?
Great.
Yes.
Great. It's a cool rainy day,
Yes. Well,
but the
I'm excited.
lilacs are in bloom.
Oh, good. That must smell delicious. I
Mm.
definitely
Yeah.
want to talk more about your house. And you've got this beautiful just yard with all these gnarly trees that have so much wisdom in them. And talk about how we kind of met and your Druidry and shamanism. And Eyal and I know each other from our 3D jobs and how we kind of secretly talk to each other on the street like, I saw you were holding a crystal. Are you? We like, shh, don't say it too loud, And and then we found other people who are woo, and then that's how we met. How I met Erin Tudler and your connection with her, and then that just was the whole stream of events to me becoming full woo medium and channeler. So thank you, Eyal. You were the apex to the synchronicity chain. So
I'm honored to have played a small part here.
yay. So I would love to let Eyal and Jodi say a little bit more about yourselves. We've got a free form talk here today. I've got Druidry, shamanism, journeying, disembodiment ceremonies, vortexes, drumming and music, psilocybin, and animals on our list. Do you think is that enough?
I think good. It's a good start.
All
We
right.
may need to fill into a part 2. We'll see.
Okay. Okay, so enough of me. Hello, my dearest spiritual Avenger friends. I love you. Welcome, Eyal and Jodi. And would you like to introduce yourself and say a little bit more about what is your woo-woo situation at the moment?
Sure.
You go
You want me to
first.
start?
Yeah.
Okay. First, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here. It's so fun to sort of be a witness and a friend and watching your spiritual unfolding and embracing of these changes and also having my own process sort of unfolding and our own process unfolding. My name is Eyal. I guess to use your nomenclature in my 3D life, I'm a teacher and a scientist in higher education. And it's not my primary identity. That's sort of what I do to earn a living and participate in society.
Yeah.
And spiritually speaking, I consider myself an animist. I studied for 3+ years in the Druid tradition, and I'm a graduate of the Green Mountain School of Druidry, which is where Jodi and I met. I think at my core, I identify as a Druid priest, as a poet, as a musician and songwriter, a lover of the natural world, and a mystical seeker. So we'll leave it there, and I'll turn it to Jodi.
Thank you. And thank you again, Danra. This is really, really fun to be able to do this. My name is Jodi. In terms of the 3D world, I'm a nurse at a local hospital. That's how I participate with society, as you termed it. And I was a member, or I am a graduate of the Green Mountain Druid Order, and I was a student there. We actually graduated in the same cohort or clan, as we call it, the Dreamwalker clan. Before that, I had done a lot of herbal training and trained with a wonderful woman. Did a 1-year apprenticeship with Sierra McFeeters with Indigenous roots, and 1 of her 2 years shamanic practice apprenticeship. and learned a lot of amazing skills that have been very helpful. And really, from a very young point, had discovered that I did a lot with spirit speaking and always kind of thought I was crazy until I moved up here and learned that there are actually people all around and we all have these innate abilities, and learned a lot of how to utilize those skills from Sally Crow, and who was a very, very gracious teacher with her skills, and has a lot of great books out. So I've been blessed to have a lot of really great teachers to kind of guide what I was thinking was wrong with me into what is a deep and fulfilling spiritual practice that has now helped me to engage in my world in just such a beautiful and more fulfilling way. Which those words seem to pale in comparison to how I experience myself in my world now. It's like going from a picture on a coloring book to an IMAX theater experience.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
amazing. Yeah.
So that is so beautiful. That just raised about 400 more questions for me. But first, I need to comment on how grounding you all are. Like, whenever I do this, I tend to become a kind of a spaz. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can feel you guys like just helping anchor back down into earth. And both of you are poets when you speak. And Eyal and I know each other from our 3D world. There have been times when people would cry in faculty meetings because of how like beautifully stated you said something. Who cries in a faculty meeting? It sounds like poetry though. And Jodi, the analogy that you just gave reminded me of that as well. It's just, so I want to like honor and thank you for just your presence and who you are. This is going to be so fun. So I don't know what an animist is. Do you mind helping with that one, Eyal?
Sure. So whenever I think about Druidry, and I would probably just blanket this as paganism in general, it's not the lens, it's a lens, right? And like most sort of modalities or frameworks in terms of engaging with the spiritual and the natural world, it does have sort of like single prerequisite, and that prerequisite is animism, as I think about it. So animism is a relational way of engaging with the world, and that presupposes that everything has spirit in it, and that you are invited to be in relationship with the spirit of a thing. And so it doesn't matter whether it's a rock or a tree or a house or a place or a car. It's a way of engaging in the world relationally that gives whatever object appears to be external. Sorry about that. Appears to be external to you, as having a spirit energy to it, an energetic presence to it that exists outside of your awareness of it, that exists outside of your input into it, but that you can foster a relationship with that, an energetic relationship with that, and to me, that's the portal into paganism and Druidry, because it's the foundational tenet of the way that we carry with ourselves in the world spiritually, with the humility and the respect and the awe that everything that we encounter that appears to be outside of us is energetically sort of animated. It's energetically imbued with a power that we are allowed to be in relationship with.
Consciousness.
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
And that's the thing that I really love is a lot of times people who are not necessarily spiritually inclined will refer to animism as the superstition or the antiquated viewpoint. But the beautiful thing is quantum mechanics is proving every day that animism is actually more true to a realistic lens than what we in modern Western society would consider our reality, because all particles have consciousness. I mean, look at the slit theory. It all is a wave until it's observed. And then when it's observed, it's doing what it thinks you want it to do. And those are particles. Everything is made of particles. All has consciousness. So, and animism is just acknowledging that we are surrounded by beings, by particles, by consciousness, and that there is a consciousness to engage with.
And I think that a lot of people do this organically without even identifying as animists or pagans or any of that, in terms of, you know, coaxing a struggling houseplant, for example, or like saying I believe in you, or like, you know, even a little giddy up to your car that might be having a hard time starting up when it's minus 20 degrees on a January morning. So it's sort of it's a conscious choice to engage in the world with a certain type of relationality, and to me, relationship is the substrate of what I call magic or magical engagement with the world. And the fact that automatically creates a sense of humility and respect through that relationship, it does something to the frequency of our awareness and the way that we interact with our world and with the energies of the world that is very conducive to presence.
Wow, beautifully said. And I like how this marries all of our kind of, I think we all have a little scientific, more than just a little scientific bent to it. So can you be full woo and sciencey? Yes. I mean, because quantum physics is kind of the anchor to all of these, you know, what feel like etheric or it's hard to grasp concepts. And it's so funny that you brought up the plant, because I discovered a little plant that had been gifted to me that had been living in my office unknowingly for months, like the whole winter. And I was like, oh no, it's like, it looked all gnarly. And I'm like, I'm going to save you, little plant. I'm so sorry. And I like every morning I kiss it. I'm like, how are you doing? Oh, you look so much greener. You know, and it came back to life.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I used to like kill spiders with like such gusto, you know, and just like slam it down, like, get away from me. I don't want you. And now it's like, no, I'm going to scoop up this little dude who's just trying to live his life and send him out into the world safely to follow his path. Yeah. And hugging trees, all of that. Yeah. And just the concept of oneness. Oh, so I think I want to know more about, because Druidry and shamanism, it feels like there's overlaps, because I know the way that describing journeying is very similar to like how we communicate with spirit, but it doesn't have the same like grounded lens. Can you kind of talk about what happens in a Druid school, and the kind of concepts that come up there?
Yeah, you understand?
Yeah, I would say probably the most impactful thing for me, and I think it's, in my mind anyway, probably the first place anybody should start on their spiritual journey of any type, was the fact that a lot of effort was put into teaching us how to know ourselves, like how to understand what are the things that are forming the lens through which we see the world, and how is that shifting, and what in the way that we relate with the world is really sort of impact the outcomes of what we're getting. And a lot of that comes from looking into how to understand our own subconscious, how to understand our woundings. I mean, there is a lot of work in learning to listen to subtle energies, and learning to listen to, like, trees, for instance, is a great subtle energy that is, once you really start to tune into the energetics of the fauna and the standing ones, beautiful trees, and you understand just how much communication is happening all the time. When you open yourself up to that, then you start to really kind of open up to a whole new world. But first, what comes with that is understanding what is inside of you that might be blocking your ability to be open. So, yes, there's a lot of magical education, if you will, and learning how to communicate with other beings, but also learning just from yourself where is that communication starting from, like what is the bias, what is the lens, what is the energetic that is coming from, and what shifts that energetic, like what are things that trigger you, what things that pull you out of your prefrontal cortex into mammalian brain that then automatically shuts down everything else that needs to happen in the hippocampus to have you being open to other beings. And that to me was like paramount in being able to take any further steps in learning the really fun, juicy, magical bits.
Yeah, I would say the building blocks of the language of Druidry thinks about energy in terms of the four primordial elements: air, fire, water, and earth. And so that becomes a linguistic and conceptual framework that helps one think about energy. And we learn to think about and embody and be in relationship with those elements and all of the fractal ways in which they appear in our reality through the cycle of a day, the cycle of the moon, the seasonality of the year, the seasonality of one's life. And so there's this real sense of, when we talk about the fundamental magical principle of as without, so within, as above, so below, that we get energetic cues and clues and assistance from the world around us. And the energetic landscape of the season, of the land that you happen to be on, absolutely impacts everything that's touching it. And so we learn how to be sensitive to those energies and to work with those energies for sacred purpose. And there's three major archetypes that most modern Druid schools teach that we learn to embody and study. The first one is the Bard, and it's founded on this really beautiful principle that creative action is holy and is a communication with the divine. And so the first year, there's this sense of awakening the magical child, the sense of play and wonder and creation and unself-conscious, uninhibited creative joy. The second major archetype is the ovate, and this is sort of the shamanic realm, the dive into the subconscious, the darkness, with no negative connotation, just really learning to delve into the unseen aspects of our own psyche. It's also a place where we shamanistically delve much deeper into working energetically and shamanistically with tree and animal allies,
and ancestors.
And ancestor work, right? It's a huge piece of it. So it's really going deeply into the sort of quote unquote unseen, non-physical world, and deeply starting to become versed in the energetic realms, as you will.
And deprogramming the negative connotations that you spoke of, because that's one of the most important aspects, is there is no good or bad, positive or negative with these energies. They are just energies, and they have different energetic signatures.
But as we try to step into being magically creative agents of consciousness in our reality, one becomes more and more aware of how our wounding, our trauma, our subconscious patterns can cause damage to ourselves and to others. And so a big piece of the work is really cleaning one's inner temple, so that the work that we do and the intention that we strive to manifest in the world are as clean as possible and unentangled as possible from the natural energetic propensity to perpetuate damaging cycles that have hurt us in the past. And the third major archetype is that of the teacher/service leader. And so almost every modern Druid school that I know of sort of works with these three archetypes, and they call them grades. And so there's the bardic grade, thing. The bardic grade, the ovate grade, and then the druid grade is the druid archetype is the service leader, and there's this really beautiful aspirational piece to it where in the bardic grade you aspire to awaken the magical child. In the ovate grade, you awaken the shamanistic magician, and begin the lifelong work of cleaning the inner temple. And in the druid grade, you strive and learn to become walking sacred space. That you carry the energy of the sacredness of the holy in service to, and this is the thing that I love about Druidry, in service to whatever you're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Some druids are really deeply called, their service is to the earth, naturalistically, environmentally, energetically. Other ones are healers of other humans, others are healers of animals, others are artistic stewards, others are space holders for, grief work.
Others are dream workers.
Right. And many are combinations of all of these things, but it's this really incredible exploration to step into the beginning of what feels like the unknown and really ask yourself on a spiritual and energetic level, like, who are you? Who am I and what am I here to do? Mm-hmm. And the answer is found by your curiosity and your joy and your excitement, right? And part of the deprogramming is learning, like, I need to shed all of these things that society expects from me, that my family expects from me, all these stories I told myself of I'm supposed to be X, Y, and Z, or rich, or famous, whatever it is that is somebody else's story, and find what is authentically me, like mm-hmm. what lights me up. And in the tradition that we studied, and it wasn't invented by Ivan Macbeth or Fern Lickfield, who were the founders of the school. But they called it, and it's beautiful, it's finding one's path with heart. Mm-hmm. And I just love that concept, because it's about finding a new compass that isn't enforced by culturally indoctrinated or familial pressures, and a compass that comes from within, that guides your path, so that you don't question, that nobody can sort of knock you off and make you question, what are you doing? Because it's coming from mm-hmm. deep within. You're like, I'm following my truth.
Your truth with a capital T, just like that feeling that is like coming from your core.
I have to take a big breath here, because this structure is so beautiful, and it's making me realize how haphazard my past year has been, not having like that grounding and immediate guidance and community. And maybe you felt that too before you got into the Druidry, like you need some kind of anchor point. But when you were talking about the bard, there's something so important about that right now for society. Like, that feels like it's the literal antidote to what's going on in the world, with people being cruel and just defying all of our notions of what is good and right. And you're like, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, literally go put your feet in the grass and wear a silly outfit and start giggling for no reason, and then paint something.
And sharing. Artistic expression is how we show each other like little glimpses of our souls. Mm-hmm. Like, people talk about an artist's a poet's voice, or an author's voice, or an artist's mark. Like, all of those things are an expression of like the glimpses of our soul that we desperately want to share with each other. And that's like one beautiful, beautiful way to share connection with each other, with the world at large. It's so important.
Mm-hmm. So one of my very favorite things from the Druid program that we graduated from were sacred gatherings called Eisteddfod. Mm-hmm. And the Eisteddfod are, that's a Welsh term. And they're these basically like bardic gatherings. Historically, there's some evidence that they were competitions and a winner was crowned, but that's not the point. That's not the point is that we would, in that first year of the training, we were each asked to pick a bardic art, which is some kind of performance art. It could be dance, it could be storytelling, it could be song, it could be musicianship. And it was really intended to be something that we weren't like fully expressed in yet. And so it was a challenge. It was a growth opportunity. But every time that we met, every weekend, and we had one monthly full weekend immersion experiences as a group as part of that program, we would have these Eisteddfod gatherings. And I can just say that I know the world would be completely transformed if that was a regular practice that we all did,
Yep.
because it wasn't about someone did the best piece of music. It was about the invitation for someone to dig really deeply and vulnerably and express something true about themselves, and the opportunity to both be witnessed that vulnerably and to witness others in community that vulnerably with regularity. It is unbelievable. And we all know the power of art. Like every person that I know has had their breath stop because of a beautiful song or a beautiful painting, or watched a movie or a play that just pulled them out of the mundanity of bills and, stress and whatever, and just reached into something archetypal and timeless within them. And we need these reminders. We need these reminders of connection to one another and connection to the cosmos that we're so a part of and is so easy to forget in our current world.
I'm picturing these. You don't want to know how I tried to spell that word. Eisteddfod.
It's there's different spellings, but it's Eisteddfod.
Okay, I was not correct in any way.
That's okay.
But I can feel it when you said the word. I was there. Like the energy, it's almost like, why am I picturing what's that accordion? The accordion.
Yeah, totally.
There's
totally. The concertina is the more sort of Celtically apt accordion, but yes, it's the same thing. You got it.
Just my God.
And drums and whistles and flutes and harps, right? And just the beautiful tradition of, because the ancient Druids, the text that we have on them, they believed in the power of storytelling, right? The Druids were philosopher, politician, judges, right? And their words molded civilizations.
Wow. And so, just to give the counterpoint to why this is so needed, I just was talking to a Vermont educator who works with young kiddos, and she was expressing just total dismay because in first grade classrooms here, they have eliminated singing and art and, rhyming. And they're expecting them, they're like learning about the War of 1812 or something when they're 6. And it's like, this is the opposite of where, and I was surprised to hear that in Vermont. I know that, because we're relatively progressive, and I think this is why we're able to speak openly about what we're doing compared to like other places. But yeah, that just, the contrast really stood out to me, and I am hopeful that with the world ascending in the way it is, that it will recognize the value of the artistic and creative piece. And yeah, the childlike joy, my husband has to just deal with me now because the flowers are so beautiful right now. And so I have this thing of just running up to the tree and be like, look at you, you're so pretty. And I'm like looking at the little stamens inside the flower, and there's a bug, and it just brings, and I went to the flea market the other day and I found these just ridiculous things for $1, and I was so happy, like I'm going to create something with this. And it just feels very aligned, like I could actually hear my spirit guides cheering and laughing, and like this is what the universe, I feel like, is feeding. It feeds off of that so much more joyously than any of these other things. Okay, so the ovate period, would you say that is the equivalent of like facing shadow work? Or is that wording very non-druid?
That was a good bit of it. Ovate, if you think of the ovate time period as like an egg or a chrysalis, there was a lot of talk about sort of being in the imaginal goo that butterflies become in the chrysalis before they transform. So it's definitely a year of transformation. A lot of that transformation comes from what we term as shadow work, or really borrowing from the Jungian philosophies of getting to know your subconscious more, so that you are no longer doomed to repeat it and call it fate, as it would be. But it's also, there was a life examination. There is a lot of ancestry work that happens, because a lot of who we are stems from our ancestry, for good or ill. It is, we are parts of our building blocks that have accumulated to this coagulation in time, and being able to learn from that and understand what wounding comes from us, and what in this life experience, and what wounding comes from ancestry and the life experience that has led to this moment in time, is very, very important. But there's also the idea of like the golden shadow, because again, with this perfectionist sort of Western society that we live in, there's this idea that if you can't deliver this beautiful perfection, then you shouldn't even try. And a lot of times what we admire in others is something that we hold in ourselves that we will not allow to be expressed. And it's like holding a gift from the universe. Like holding, not giving it, and holding it for ourselves.
I think the sure, the ovate year is like the shadow year, if you want to talk about it in those terms. I think the one thing I would just say, and I would say it whenever we would talk about shadow work, is in sort of modern neo-spiritualism, we'll often talk about shadow work as like the thing we need to do and get over with so we can find our joy or find our purpose. It's like the obstacle that prevents us from... And I think there's some metaphysical reality to that to some extent. But the one sort of emphasis I'd like to make here is my perception of shadow work is that it's not something to get done with. We're infinite beings in multiple directions. We're infinite in our conscious capability, and we're infinite in our subconscious sort of reality, energetics. And so the exploration of the hidden is part of our mysterious and infinite nature. And so the real work is not, yes, there's sort of like a cleaning and a refining, but the real work was to prepare one for lifelong examination and clearing and illumination of those sticky areas that are seen to be pulling us in consciously undesirable directions, but are actually entangled with some protective mechanism, some wounding response that are sort of driving the energetic infrastructure of our reality and can be leading to these negative patterns that we would see, like, why are my relationships always turning out this way? Or why am I having such a struggle finding happiness in a particular area of my life? And so it's a toolbox to really say, okay, let me fearlessly and courageously actually take a look under the hood of this energetic engine that seems to be sort of like running certain things that are undeniable patterns, and give one some tools to be like, okay, I'm going to try to face this. I'm going to try to own this. I'm going to try to understand why there's a part of me that's really attached to these particular types of painful outcomes, so that I can release, so that I can expand, so that I can grow into these areas that are so scary to me, right? And leaving me sort of paralyzed or stuck in some energy patterns that I'm ready to release consciously and want to also release at the subconscious level.
Right. And it's not even just a matter of looking at something to get rid of it. And it's more a matter of a release of the energy that has kept you stuck, because the goal is not to get rid of those parts. The goal is integration, because oftentimes those shadowy bits that we have trouble looking at or examining are the places where we hold our greatest gifts. And the goal is to integrate into the whole self, not excise parts of ourself.
It's a good addition.
Oh my God, guys, see what I mean about poetry? Stop it. This is every time you speak, I write down like 50,000 more things. So what I took from that when you were describing like the infinity loop too, because I know it probably they designate this as a time, but it's iterative, right? Like you will,
Oh, it's
yeah,
continuously going.
yeah. I was like, oh, I thought I addressed this. Oh, whoop, there it is, you know. And part of that evolution, like you said, the more that you can have capacity for the light, there's the equal capacity for the shadow. And like, how do you look at it? And I've really been trying to find that like neutral point or zero point, like to look at it without as many emotional attachments, or you know, to kind of explore it in a different way. And then there was that disembodiment ceremony that happened that we talked about. I'm really interested in what that is, or what your experiences were that. So I had that with Sekhmet. She kind of made herself very known to me very quickly, and I was intimidated and overwhelmed and was like shying away from her. And I learned that she doesn't. That wasn't the way she rolls. She wants me to stand up to her and recognize that I am her. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then I eventually got to a point where I started yelling at her and standing with her. And then she, um, in a in a dreamlike state or journey, she came and my skin fell off and I popped out as a light body, and then she ravaged my skin, like destroyed. And I had told you guys that story thinking, oh, that's not good. You know, like that can't be good. And then you help me understand symbolically what those kinds of it's an actual ceremonial process that was kind of happening without me knowing. Can you explain a little bit more about that part, like the more concrete confrontation of some of your shadow pieces?
So the disembodiment journey was something that I actually experienced with my work with Sierra, not in the Druid program.
Oh, okay.
And it is a practice often that happens in journey space with shamanic trainings, but it's also so as you go through shamanic trainings, and really as you go through life, there are always these series of mini deaths, not many, M-A-N-Y, but many, M-I-N-I,
Yeah.
deaths, or ego deaths. And it's a way of expanding, because sometimes you need to get beyond the encapsulations that our egos put on us, which we kind of need to come into this physical world. But when you start to grow and expand spiritually, you need to be able to see beyond those encapsulations. So a disembodiment journey is, in the way I was taught by Sierra, we went into journey space. And I remember for mine, my journey space, I had gone to the upper world. And I know it could be different in many traditions. And the ask was journey and ask to be dismembered. And so it can happen in any number of ways. There was a lot of work with death as a concept, but also death in parts of ourselves. And so I've done a dismemberment journey in a few different ways. But my first one I can remember, I went up in flames, and then my ashes sort of blew away, and I was in this desert sort of dreamscape. And how I came back was a totally different being. And some people have dismemberment journeys and they're dismembered by their spirit animals. Some people have dismemberment journeys and the dismemberment happens with a deity that they're working with. It can happen in many different ways, but the important aspect with that is the ability to surrender and know that this is sort of what needs to happen, I guess, to that the dismantling of something has to occur for you to be able to expand into what is coming for you. And these processes, I will say, can be a little scary for someone. I mean, the idea of the many deaths that occur are not comfortable. And oftentimes there's a form of recapitulation that happens to be able to integrate this new being that comes through. But I can say in my experience, I've never gone through an experience like that when I was not being in some way energetically held by spirit guides in some way.
Yeah, the dismemberment ceremonies per se are seem to be more from sort of indigenous shamanistic traditions, but every animistic tradition that I know of has death ceremonies, as Jodi was saying, and an opportunity to have a really conscious relationship with one's own mortality and push one, I would say almost by definition, to a place of fear, where you are asked to confront the fear of one's own mortality and to surrender into it, as opposed to suppress, numb, medicate, distract the way that we do with things that we typically are afraid of.
Yeah.
So in our druid work, we spent that whole ovate year preparing for a death ceremony, whereas Jodi alluded to, we did a life review, right? We tied up our ends as if we were going to die, right? We inhabited the attitude that we had a few months left to live and ceremonially surrendered into, on some level, that reality, that spiritual reality. And I would say that we see this over and over and again, and maybe at the risk of upsetting some people, there's a reason, like even the Christian ideology has this concept of born again. Baptism is a birth, but it's also a death. You can't have birth without the death, right? And so whenever, you might call it baptism, you can call it initiation. These traditions, because facing that fear, I kind of think about consciousness a little bit just for the sake of fun. Let's think about it like Russian nesting dolls. In order to make a quantum leap to the next more expansive viewpoint, you have to surrender what feels like the boundaries of one's consciousness in totality, because those boundaries, those implicit assumed boundaries, which aren't real, they're just limitations, are the things that seems to define our reality. So to give them up is a death. To give them up is a kind of annihilation. And on the other side of that is the recognition of our own eternal nature. And so these practices, these sacred ceremonies, are designed to ask us to confront and release those. And they're extremely uncomfortable, right? And it's very hard in our current society with sort of our extreme aversion to discomfort and our litigious nature to be like, you upset me, and so I'm going to sue you, or how dare you, I paid money for this experience and you made me uncomfortable. I mean, that's kind of what in these traditions we sign up for, right? in an intentional, safely held, thoughtful way, to be like, yes, allow me, cultivate an experience with me, to allow me to face this thing that's so uncomfortable, so that I can realize a more expansive version of my own being, a more authentic version of my own being.
Yes, that really resonates, because when you face that, feelings of self-worth, or the pieces that you haven't wanted to look at yourself, the untanglement is extra difficult because it had been protective for so long, or it had served a purpose at one time to like literally survive or to get through some pretty traumatic experiences. And so the idea of shedding it or surrendering to a whole different way of being feels so vulnerable. And I can't imagine that this would be easy for someone to kind of navigate on their own. So to have the context of the community, and that's so important. I wanted to come back to, you were talking about cleaning your inner temple and finding path with your heart and having a new compass, and what you were talking about, Jodi, with the golden shadow and how these are actually gifts. I know that, and Eyal, you don't have to talk about this, but I know that there was a certain time where recently where you were holding space for men, a men's group, and that we were kind of honoring that you were only able to do that because you had faced, you know, what before would have been very difficult. And then by you holding that openness and your own vulnerability and widening that sphere for others to like bravely step through that door with you. Can you maybe just talk about that gift part, that let's say the shit that we had to go through
Yeah.
later becomes the thing that you help others with, basically?
Yeah. Very common language that people use in sort of modern spirituality is this idea that we are all mirrors for one another.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely, when we think about that as a framework, it sort of again does that relational thing where it immediately humbles one's ego identity to realize that my very existence, my very being is an opportunity for you to learn something about you. And your very being is an opportunity for me to learn something about me. And in even talking like that, the idea of separating and acting as if we are independent things that happen to bump into each other becomes ludicrous and sort of silly, because it sort of underscores the idea that nothing happens by accident. All of our interactions are seen to be orchestrated by some mysterious synchronicity, by some mysterious pattern that is a mystery, right? It's a glorious mystery. So one of the things that I found time and again is that whenever I come into a sacred space or a temple or a ceremony, whatever I'm bringing to the table and whatever other people are bringing to the table, it inevitably has some deep resonance for me, to the point where it's like, I can't believe, like, let's just take the plant example. It's like, I can't believe you're talking about talking to plants, when I was literally, just talking. I mean, and I have my own like story about like a way that, I worked with a tree and it sort of came back to life as a metaphor, as a spiritual, ritualistic experience of my own coming back to life. But in terms of what you're talking about, one of my deep works in the Ovate year and my ongoing work is my relationship to my own identity as a man, with masculinity in general. And I have a lot of deep wounding. I have my biological father left the family when I was 7 in a very abrupt and unceremonious way, and I have had and continue, to grow in terms of feeling comfortable claiming being a man as something that is something that can be sacred, about an identity that I can feel proud of, proud to own, proud to wield, proud to embody. And so, for obvious reasons, right? If you're listening to this, you're probably aware of the toxic sort of gendered culture that we have in our society, and in the modern era. And so, what I have found is a lot of my work in treading in my own discomfort and my own shame and my own trauma around embodied manhood in this lifetime, in this experience, that by being vulnerable and honest, right, and sharing my own experience in those, it's allowed me to not be as triggered when other people are experiencing certain struggles that I have. And so it sort of allows me the opportunity to hold space in a compassionate way, in a gentle way, in a grounding, non-judgmental way that sort of fosters other people to be able to confront uncomfortable pieces of themselves around this issue of masculinity. And it doesn't, masculinity is just sort of like the specific example that we're talking about because of that experience that I had shared with you, Danra. But this is the way that the pebble in the pond ripples outward, and how healing touches the collective. Because there's this nucleation that happens, there's this crystallization that happens whenever anything energetically vibrational occurs. It can be negativity, and it can be extreme joy, it can be play, it can be gratitude. Is that energetically like seeks like, right? It's sort of like the foundational principle of the law of attraction, sort of in its purest sense. And so when we heal, when we become less reactive or less dismissive or less terrified of aspects of our own being, of the struggles that we have, right? And we learn how to face them courageously and not to demonize ourselves, right? Not to, as Jodi said, excise pieces of our own being, but rather be able to look at their distorted presentations and sift through that distortion to find the kernel of authentic truth that they reside upon. Like, what's the wound? What's the desire? What's the holy impulse underneath the destructive behavior? Something like that. Then it creates this permission. It creates a safe space for other people to do the same, right? And I know how greatly I have benefited in my life from interacting with holy men, right? To be in the presence of men who have done the work and are doing the work to hold themselves accountable, right? To be present, to be emotionally vulnerable, to be open and compassionate and gentle and even fierce, but wield that fierceness with a sense of righteous justice and not in an ego-driven attempt to dominate and control and subdue. And so you can apply it to any kind of wounding that can happen, but this is why, in my opinion, the work always starts from within. It's why you can't. One of the big griefs that I have is that as esoteric knowledge around magical manifestation and sort of like creative, magical creativity, if that's not paired with like the deep inner work, then it's kind of a really dangerous weapon.
Very much
Right.
so.
And it's not often sort of taught that those two things have to go hand in hand in order for it to be non-destructive and be done powerfully. And I actually think that there's some reality to that. If you only teach the magical creativity without the intense responsibility that's required in it, then it's extremely dangerous. And so to me, we do the inner work so that the outer work that we're doing is actually holy, right? Knowing that we're going to make mistakes, but really holding ourselves to the principle of like, why am I doing what I'm doing from a magical creative purpose? Because, wanting to become rich or get your dream partner just for the sake of that, that's not really a holy impulse, right? Wanting to live from a place of enough resource so that you can serve the world in a holy way, wanting to be in a relationship that feeds you a deep sense of belonging and connection and support in a way, that's a holy impulse. That's a birthright that we all have, but we get so attached and fixated on what that sense of completion looks like that we sort of will tend to hyperfixate on things that sort of send us off the righteous path, if you will, the authentic and honest path. So to me, we we face our difficult things, so that we can collectively support one another to continue doing that in this great spiritual evolution that we're participating in.
Good Lord, you just had like 6 mic drops in there. I'm going to send you the transcript of this so that you could, I think you just wrote a book, Eyal. Like, just, I was like, the shit we have to work on, then helps others. And you just encapsulated it so beautifully. Well, what a gift to that group of men that you were part of their first experience of having that vulnerable and open space. I have been around you enough to know that this comes to you with great ease. You have this good ability to just set that kind of container, and that it's obvious that it comes from a place where that has been faced on your own with great vulnerability as well. So what a gift to have both of you in that space. And I'm learning a lot from you too, because I haven't had that kind of structured journey. So I just want to say thank you as friends, and for constantly being open about this process too, for someone who hasn't had as much guidance as well. So we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure that I have a speed round for you guys. Speed round.
Okay.
And because we have plenty more to talk about, let's do this again. Or
yeah, that'd be so much fun.
You guys should just have your own podcast. And now that you know how this whole StreamYard thing is, just do it on your own. But I would love to have you back too. So before we do the speed round, is there any events or celebrations that are coming up that the community can be part of that you might want to mention to people who are watching?
Yeah, we have a Wheel of the Year ceremony offerings that we co-lead at a place called Rootstock Retreat. You can just Google Rootstock Retreat in Glover, Vermont, and you'll see events calendar. It's a really special place that has a lot of really sweet offerings, like a monthly moon circle, a women's gathering, and a sun circle, a men's gathering, and just other really delightful community gatherings. So our next ceremony is a summer solstice ceremony, and that will be happening. Well, let me look. I don't know if I can't remember if it's the actual solstice day. Yeah, Sunday the 21st. We'll be having a morning ceremony. It won't be quite a real sunrise ceremony because that's going to be really early then. But we'll have there's a morning ceremony, and Wheel of the Year ceremonies is part of our Druidic lineage and things. Something that we believe strongly in aligning ourselves to spiritual practices that honor the seasons of the earth and the year. And so that's a really sweet offering that I'm excited about. Yeah, I think that's the one to promote right now.
Nice. And when I talk to you again soon, we'll just keep telling people what's going on. This will be the last time. So are you ready for speed round? Speed round?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the elements before. I'm curious which element you align the most with, or is your anchoring element?
I am a being that sort of hovers the line of duality, and even my birth chart, I'm a cusp of an air sign and an earth sign.
Okay.
So both of those do tend to be where I fly back and forth between.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. I had thought that air was my real element. I've come to think that earth is my dominant element.
Ah, interesting.
I love water, and fire was the scariest one for me, even though astrologically I'm a fire sign.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, we just did the elements for our light language group, and I ended up being earth as well, which is interesting because of you remember how I mentioned how grounding you guys are. I just feel it from you. I feel like I'm kind of like up in the atmosphere or something. So this is an opportunity for me to kind of reclaim that connection there. It's not as hard when we live in Vermont the way we do to be around it. Okay, do you have an altar, and what is on it?
Many
Yes.
altars.
How many? You talk about yours first.
I have a working altar, and right next to it, I have my ancestors' altar. But my working altar is my altar with my mirror. I do oftentimes mirror work, both with spell work and with the ancestry work. And then I have, you can't see because it's behind the computer, we both have a bookshelf where all of our cards and some really fun books, but also where a lot of my things that I take off and on with my deities that I have on my altar. And there are also altar spaces outside that we work with regularly.
Yeah, I would say the natural temple altars that we've stewarded and also built on our land is a big piece of it. My bedside altar currently has an oversized hawthorn branch on it. I've been working with this beautiful hawthorn tree on our land for about 6 months, and I'm slightly overdue to return that branch to the land and complete this particular exchange that we've had. But that's
spiritual libraries.
That's a big piece. I have crystals and candles and other things, each of which has personal significance, and I have a stag antler on my neck as part of my work and sort of claiming my holy masculinity.
Wow, nice.
And we both have portable magical bags that we take with us whenever we're doing.
You got to have that.
The magical go bag.
Yes.
So that was actually next on my list, was your favorite tree, because your backyard is spectacular. There's so much energy. Would you describe it as a vortex, or how would you? There's some serious swirling of cosmic energy back there.
I'd say we have a lot of portal sites, a lot of power spots on our land.
So is the hawthorn?
The hawthorn is like fairy village. Our hawthorn is our matron spirit of this land. She definitely feels very much like a matriarch, sort of guardian of this particular area. And there's a couple of different sets of like three sisters. There's the three sister apple trees, but then there's the three sister fay trees that are right next to the hawthorn. And those are spectacular and also very potent, I will say.
Yeah. Tongue in cheek, I consider myself polyarborous, and that I can be in deep relationship with multiple trees at once.
I don't think they mind. I don't
either. I would say my three current sort of like primary tree teachers that I'm still working with are Apple, which has been my longest running sort of tree that I'm still in active engagement with on a regular basis, the hawthorn. And we also live on land that has a lot of ash trees, which is new for me. And so I'm also in this, now that we've completed a year here, I'm in sort of a slow burn flirtation relationship with ash. and still learning and opening myself up to the wisdom of the ash tree.
Yeah. My tree allies, oak, willow, hawthorn, and holly. And they do also have correlating directions.
We can turn your speed around into lengthy.
Sorry.
That's okay. We should get Sarah on next time. She is. Yes. We all visited that beautiful forest together, and the power there was intense. I remember just putting my hand on the roots of a tree, and then I saw, a Native American running after a deer and shot it in front of me, and then I looked with an arrow, and then I looked down, and there was a deer skull. It was like it just animated the history of the place and the sacredness of it. So I'm with you. Next time we'll talk more about trees. So I won't want to let this stop.
Excellent.
All right, your go-to crystal at the moment. Maybe it's on the altar or just your favorite in your collection.
I think my go-to right now is adventurine and carnelian are the two that I've been working most with.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an aventurine. Well, labradorite also.
Yeah.
Labradorite, aventurine. This is actually malachite, but also that's a different.
Yeah. Those energies are so different and interesting. I mean, very empowering, the carnelian and the, yep.
I'm still loving this labradorite, which is I call it my portal stone. It has beautiful energy to it, and when I'm doing sort of initiation or gateway or portal magic, it's still my go-to. I really am in love with that stone.
I know it's hard not to get hypnotized by a labradorite, right? I mean, come on. They seduce you. They bring you in. Like they're flirting with us.
for real. For real. It's like, oh, stop it.
I do have to say he's also a very impressive serpentine magician.
Yeah, I have a long-standing magical relationship with serpentine, which is a natural mineral that we find in Vermont, and we can talk about that sometime.
I think that's what was in your pocket the first day I asked you about woo-woo stuff.
Indeed.
I was like, I showed you my crystal, and you're like, here's mine. It was like the serpentine that came from like England, or it was a very special.
I had my Merlin stone.
Oh, the Merlin stone.
Yeah, I had both a serpentine and my Merlin stone with me.
Nice. Okay, this is all these topics.
Yeah, we'll just let the Merlin stone hang there as a juicy follow-up potential.
This is how we survive: is Merlin stones at faculty meetings, right?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Pretty much.
So, do you use tarot or oracle cards? And is there a favorite one that you have?
You go first this time.
Yes. I don't use them as much in my regular practice right now, but tarot cards is the way I found the Druid school. It's its own like very magical, crazy backstory. But basically, I was gifted a tarot deck, and it changed my reality instantaneously. It was right during COVID, and it was very much like, what is happening to me? And in my search for answers to try to figure out whether I was going crazy. And I knew I wasn't, because it was very exciting, right? But in my effort to try to figure out what was happening, that brought me to the Druid school. And that deck, which is still my all-time favorite and just like very dear to me, is called the Wildwood Tarot. And it's kind of an untraditional tarot deck, but very deep and Celtic and wonderful.
And I also really love the Wildwood Tarot, but I have a little bit of a love affair with the Light Seekers deck. I really love that. And Rebecca Campbell has a couple of oracle decks. The one's the Star Seed, and the other is the Ancient Stone deck. Her decks are very, very good. And I'll do a little bit of a local shout out to I can't remember Sunny's website, but Sunny does have an Etsy. Sunny went to school with my kids, and Sunny did this amazing tarot deck that syncs with Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
it is such an amazing tarot deck, and I wish I could remember the name of Sunny's Etsy, but that is an amazing tarot deck, because the way Sunny has really taken each of the scenes and encapsulated the energetic of each of the cards is like on point.
Wow.
Chef's kiss, on point. Very good.
If you find that, I'll put it in the comments so people can check it out. And here's some of Rebecca Campbell's. I've got the Starseed one too, but just beautiful. If I could design a deck like this, I think it would be like this.
Yeah. The artwork on her decks and the messages are really great.
Okay, you mentioned your bookshelf. What book are you reading right now at the moment?
Right now, I'm actually listening to a book called The Future Human. And
Disease.
Are you the one who recommended that to me?
Yes, Lee Harris is so
could
wonderful.
not for the life of me remember who had recommended it. And I am so loving it, because a lot of the timelines and things that they're saying correlate with also the Seth material, which we both have really been very deep into in our lives. And also Gene Keys sort of has a little bit of a timeline for things that also correlates. I really am enjoying that one. So thank you.
Yeah, that's Lee Harris, who channels what is called the Z's, which is like a collective, and Future Human is kind of talking about what's happening right now. So it's really fascinating to see it like all play out in real time with amazing accuracy.
It's
and
good stuff.
We don't have to worry because we are going through like the adolescent terrible twos kind of phase right now, but then there will be an emergence of more light that is far better than our experience right now. In case people are losing hope, there's no reason to. Okay, and Eyal?
Yeah, I guess sort of in like the spiritual library we're reading together. We do read aloud together.
You guys are adorable.
We're reading a really beautiful book. We're taking a very slow journey through it, but it's called The Crystal Journey, and it's our druid, the man who founded the Druid school, Ivan Macbeth. I never met him in the flesh, but he's left a very powerful spiritual and literary legacy, and he wrote this book called The Crystal Journey, which is this like mythic tome written in the language of beautiful poetry, beautiful narrative poetry, called The Crystal Journey, about his spiritual awakening and his journey as a druid, which is deeply, deeply inspirational. So that's the one I would highlight right now.
Oh, wow. I'm going to look that up. Okay, last speed round. You guys are doing great. One more. Your power animal, or the animal that you're most connected to. I know that Jodi, you have food out for your raven, right? I don't know if the raven has come or if that's your
the raven has been coming to visit. I have 4 spirit animals that I work with, again correlating to different elementals and directions, but right now I am engaging deeply with the ravens of the land, the corvids of the land in general, and I'm hoping to imbue some trust and maybe actual like relationship with these beautiful beings.
Yeah. My 2 primary animals I'm working with right now are owl, which is my OG, and bear. Owl.
Oh my God, that's what I was going to say, because I have that whole owl bear story. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Now we'll have to ask more about why owl is the OG. Have you talked to Sarah about that? Sarah's our good friend who used to work with owls in the forest, and I don't know if you've ever talked about the owls together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. To-do list. Okay, perfect. So thank you guys so much. My next question, which isn't a speed round question, is when are we going to all quit our jobs and open up our little woo-woo society so that we don't have to worry about bringing Merlin stones to the faculty meeting, because there won't be any faculty. We just go to our barefoot, beautiful patch of land where we let the sun hit our face and bring people in for energy exchanges. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
It cannot be soon enough.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts from you guys, or any way that people want to connect with you, or do you want me to just put that all in the notes?
Yeah, you can put it in the notes. I'm very happy to share my email if people are curious about Druidry or want to engage in that. I consider myself a bit of a druid and pagan evangelist. I feel so blessed by the doors that were opened to me magically at this midlife crisis point when I needed it so badly, so desperately. That it's an honor if I can help provide any road signs for other seekers who are looking for community or looking for opportunities or looking for a path that might resonate with them.
Yeah, and you both got the gift of each other at this time of life too.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
absolutely adorable. I love you guys so much. Thank you for bringing your poetry and wisdom, and I'll look forward to the next time we do this. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you.